Hey everybody, Jeff here. I know it seems like it's been a while since I've done a video because it has. I don't know. I don't really have really much excuse except that I haven't really purchased a lot. Of course, not going out as much. Um, I am still working from home, so staying busy. And I think it's just by the time I'm done sitting here at this desk all day working, that I just in the evenings tend to not do a whole lot. And so I think I've just been lazy. Anyway, figure I'd do one. Just got a little bit to share here. Two things have come in recently. Got this in the other day. This is finally got a copy of this. Still going back and picking up, some of the Alice Cooper catalog. And this is one of my favorites, The Last Temptation. It is on music on vinyl. I think this has been released a couple times, and this is one from a couple years ago. Now, this is on black, even though I purchased this on Amazon. And the picture and the description and everything, as far as in people who had done reviews, it was on the bright, kind of an orange color. There were orange color version, or they call it bright something, like a bright orange. But and then there's the black one, which is a little more common. And I thought I was getting the orange. I got the black. Honestly, I mean, the price was the same everywhere I've looked, it seems like. But honestly, I'm fine with black. Black tends to, I don't know, sometimes color sounds different, not as good. So I don't know. I'm not going to return it or anything. But I would rank that up there as another Amazon's, goof up, even though they both have the same number and everything's the same. So how would they really know? Anyway, love this album. Decided, I needed to go ahead and pick it up before it skyrockets in price. And I had sold some other music, and so I had a little extra money, so I grabbed that. Then another one of the Amazon ones that went on sale dropped down to $11 or $12 the other day. And this was maybe more like a week and a half or so ago. Is Kiss Revenge. I didn't even pay attention to what I was buying as far as the fact that this is the overseas import. I mean, for that price, I was just like, Kiss Revenge. And then I got it and I said, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was getting the import version. But hey, it is what it is, kind of cool. Again, I got a lot of ways to go on the picking up the rest of the Kiss stuff. But when they dropped in price, I went ahead and grabbed it. So those are the only two new items that I've gotten in a couple weeks, actually. So now, I wanted to share something I have done, and in the past, I've always thought it'd be neat to do this, but never have gotten a chance to do it. Maybe now with the extra time and not going anywhere as much. I don't know. But the other day, I was just feeling kind of like I'm tired of the computer, tired of sitting here doing this. I had to get away from this desk. I had been listening to music. I listen to music while I sit here. My record player's right over there. But I decided to just kind of chill out. And I've always, you hear people saying this is one of those albums you put the headphones on and sit down and listen to and pay attention to, but I've never really had a chance to sit down and listen to music. It's always more background, or it's there, or I'm working around here. It's not like I'm just sitting down and focusing. So the other day, everything was kind of quiet. Most everybody was out of this room. I thought, I'm going to spend some time just kind of vegging out, just kind of hanging. Went over there, and I went up to, I picked out an album that I was like, I'm going to listen to some stuff that either I have never really listened to very much, picked it up on a whim for various reasons, not as familiar with it, decided I'm going to listen to some stuff that I was not as familiar with. Instead of going to them go-to ones that I'm used to grabbing, my favorites and stuff, I'm like, I'm going to listen to some more obscure stuff, or just things that maybe I gave it a quick listen to, put it on the shelf, and haven't really revisited. So I thought, I'll do that. So I went over, and I kind of have things kind of set up based on genre as far as my music room. I've had to divide it up just so it's easy to find. I mean, it's not like I have a lot of records, but so like on one section I have a lot of the hard rock and metal, and over in this other section I've got the Christian hard rock and metal, and then under that I got like the Christian pop, and then I have the regular mainstream hard rock or pop. I guess it's a combination of pop and rock, and then hard rock and metal over here. So I went to the rock. I figured let's just take something that's not as rock and pop area. So I went over and grabbed this Nazareth album. Now, close enough for rock and roll. Now, I showed when I bought this just a couple months ago. This and like 3 other Nazareth albums were in the $3 bin at a store, and I thought, hey, it's kind of like buying a little mini collection. There's 4 albums by the same band, and I'm not really familiar with. Never owned a Nazareth album in the past. Was familiar with the songs that they played on MTV back in the 80s. Wasn't real familiar with their stuff in the 70s, but I bought them at that time because I thought it'd be an interesting thing to check out. I gave them a spin. I really enjoyed them, but put them on the shelf, and months go by and other things come in and you forget about them. So I pulled this out, put it on, was looking at the artwork, sat down between the speakers, and just kind of eventually just kind of closed my eyes and put myself as if I were in the room and listening to all the little, I was listening for little things, like little instrumentations that are buried, that are over there, and you're like, hey, somebody was really playing that and they put that in there, but it's not as obvious. I was just looking for the little things, just kind of feeling everything that was happening in the tunes. And it was, it was a really cool experience. So then I'm like, well, let's do it again. So I went over, stuck that one back on, kind of randomly flipped through and grabbed Triumph. Now, I was not familiar with this album at all, The Sport of Kings. This is, mid 80s. Everybody has Allied Forces and all that stuff, and we knew all that stuff. But around this time, I hadn't paid a whole lot of attention. Scott Waters sent me this a couple months back. I gave it a spin. That was cool. But this time I decided I'm going to sit down and look at it. I was reading a little bit of the lyrics. I was looking at all the artwork and just absorbing again, listening to the music and absorbing what they were doing. And it was very, a whole different experience. The album really, I'm like, wow, why was this album not huge? It's got all the commercial appeal. I mean, it's a little more commercial than maybe some other earlier stuff, but it should have been all over the radio. And I don't recall hearing much about it at all. But anyway, it was a new experience, listening to something that I hadn't probably listened to more than once or twice in the past. It's tough when you get a lot of music and you listen to something, then you file it away. And so it's nice to go back and revisit. So that's what I'm doing. I was done with that. I put that back. I went and grabbed Power Station. Now, I remember picking this up, 6-8 months ago. I was familiar with the 2 songs that were on the radio, Bang a Gong and Some Like It Hot. I know the Duran Duran connection, all that stuff. Back in the day when this was out, wasn't really my cup of tea, wasn't a big deal. But, I decided I'm going to check it out again, give it real focused attention. And I sat down and listened to it, listened to the lyrics, listened to the words, listened to all the funky bass and all the stuff in the background. And again, totally different experience. It was just, you just close your eyes and listen for the little things in there to see what it is that you could possibly, be missing when you just kind of listen to it on the radio. So again, great times. And then still, it was quiet. People weren't bothering me. People were scattered around their house. And I went for one more. Right next to Power Station was Rare Earth, PR, in the rock station, in the rock section. That's how it went. 1969, Motown Records. Picked this up last summer. It was in beautiful condition for the 1969 release. Gave it a listen once or twice, kind of dug it, decided to really absorb it this time. Again, it was just a new experience. It's, you got the second side is Get Ready, which is like this long version. I'm pretty, live, all the stuff going on, drum solos and stuff, and on the first set, it's got all the regular songs, and it was just, you just listen and absorb. And again, it was a new experience. I just kind of was like relaxing and just closing my eyes and relaxing. Nobody was bothering me, and just sat there and relaxed and listened and experienced the music in a way that I probably never have in a long time. I always talk about wanting to, but never really get a chance to just sit down and listen. So it was really cool, and I came to a conclusion, sort of as I've been listening to a lot more of the rock from the older times. I kind of came to a conclusion. I was telling my wife the next day, and then I tried to explain to her what I meant, because sometimes the way that musicians talk about music doesn't always sink in or doesn't always click with the people who think that those terms don't make sense. But what I told her was, so I said, something I'm starting to realize the more I listen to some of the older music, And I'm talking even, I mean, that was 1969. Nazareth was in the 70s. Um, Anything from that time period, and maybe even a little earlier. It started to hit me. Music at that time was more. Here's what I told her. I think music of the 60s and early 70s was a more pure music form. She's like, what do you mean by pure? And then I had to think about how could I explain this. So when you listen to, depends on the band, of course, and depends on the music. And this could go back into the 50s and 60s too, but I'm sticking to the stuff that I have more 60s and 70s. That it is pure because what you hear is what they were playing. There wasn't a ton of overdubs and layers and layers. It had a organic feel. And I guess this probably came off of right after listening to Rare Earth, because, and especially the live stuff. And even the studio stuff, it wasn't so over processed. The instrumentation was more pure. It was just, there weren't a lot of effects on things, and you find that a lot in that because, of course, the technology wasn't there, and the music, you really had to have decent talent to play in a lot of these kind of bands, because what you were recording was what people were going to hear, and there wasn't a whole lot of fancy tricks they could do. There were some, but I was just trying to make a point that it seemed like music at that time was a little more pure because it was more real. And just listening to it and focusing on all the little parts and the little instrumentations, and I was trying to pick out little things like a little guitar strum here it's there and they're repeating it, but you can tell that was layered, or maybe there's something over here that it's like, what does it add to the music? Why would they put that there? It's such a small little thing, but when you really just focus on the little things, and then, to me, it made the music as a whole more enjoyable. Anyway, enough rambling. It was a fun little experiment. I'm probably going to do it some more. Like I say, kind of stuck in the house with things, and you don't go any places as much at night. And when the family scatters to their own little corners, it gives me a little more time to just be able to listen to some stuff here. I would have done that tonight, but instead I decided to make this video for you. Anyway, thanks for watching. I won't go any further, but I'll be back real soon. Rock on.